What the Wolf Wants, Chapter 8. Malcolm's Yellow Polo Tour de Force. Malcolm Vickers arrived at St. Agatha's Academy on a Tuesday morning in a state of what could only be described as optimized readiness. He had pressed the mustard yellow polo with a care that suggested that he understood it to be a signal, which he did. He had applied the crease to his khakis with such precision that two parent volunteers, upon seeing it, independently described it afterwards using geological terminology that they did not know they had possessed. One said it looked like an eruption. The other said it reminded her of something altered by high heat and pressure, cooked, if you will, and both of them were correct. He had practiced the smile in the bathroom mirror that morning for 4 minutes. It was, by any objective measure, a great deal of smiling. Scary smiling. He had prepared remarks. The first remarks were delivered to a parent volunteer in the front corridor, a woman named Mrs. Parekh, who had come to discuss the spring fundraising schedule and who was not prepared for Malcolm. He told her that the school's fundraising structure represented a classic secondary recovery scenario, leveraging an existing asset base to extract additional value through enhanced methods. Mrs. Parekh thanked him and went to find Maura. The second was delivered to a St. Agatha's junior named Clara, the same Clara who kept the emergency dog biscuits in the third drawer for Fest, who was crossing the main corridor with a stack of programs for the upcoming theatrical production. Malcolm told her that her organizational skills suggested strong structural integrity in the reservoir. Clara said, "Thank you, sir," with the equanimity of a 16-year-old who had managed a golden retriever drama teacher for 2 months and who had fully recalibrated her threshold for unusual adult behavior. She also went to find Maura. Olivia received Malcolm in the front parlor with the composed grace of a woman who has been briefed by Maura in 47 words, none of them wasted, on what to expect, who has decided that the most dignified response is to treat the visit as a routine administrative call and to allow it to conclude at its natural pace. She offered him tea. He accepted. He sat across from her with the mustard polo and the smile and the folder of administrative materials that he had brought as a professional pretext, and which neither of them were going to discuss, and he was, for approximately the first 4 minutes, almost manageable. Then he winked. It was the first wink. It was deployed at the end of a sentence about interagency administrative cooperation that had been up to that point factually unobjectionable. The wink transformed it retroactively into something that required a great deal of internal composure to receive it without visible reaction. Olivia received it without visible reaction. She was, after all, a headmistress. Mustard polo, rictus smiling, and now flowery, exaggerated winks, as though sharing some secret handshake that telegraphed his understanding of the great honor about to be bestowed upon him. Advisory board. Yes, he could be transformative in that role. Olivia stared blankly at him, then quickly looked down. She was losing faith in the human race. Down the hall, the theater door opened briefly as a student came out for something. Through the open door, the sound of rehearsal. Malcolm, who was facing that direction, registered the movement. His smile intensified. He deployed the second wink. The second wink was even larger than the first. It was the wink of a man who has received a signal and is now returning that signal with compound interest. From the theater, a beat of silence. Then the specific sound, which everyone at St. Agatha's now recognized the way that sailors recognize weather, of something going wrong in a way that was going to require the biscuits. The dog biscuits. Olivia sat down her teacup. She set it down with exactly the precision and deliberateness of a woman buying herself 2 seconds. Olivia, with remarkable evenness. Malcolm, I appreciate your visit, and I appreciate the enthusiasm you've brought to it. The administrative materials are helpful. I'll have Maura follow up on that interagency material. Malcolm, the smile softening just slightly into something more human. Of course, yes. And I hope this one is his, not a rhetorical tool. I hope things are going well for you, Olivia, generally. Olivia, there something shifts very slightly, not toward Malcolm, but toward honesty. Things are going better than they were. Thank you, Malcolm. Malcolm, absorbing this with the careful attention of a man trying to read a formation he does not have the training for, said, Good, that's good. He left without the third wink. This was, Olivia thought, an improvement. She waited until she heard the front door close. Then she said, Maura. Maura materialized from the hallway in the way she always did, as though she had been near enough to be useful without close enough to intrude. She came in and closed the parlor door and sat down in the chair Malcolm had vacated and waited, because she was very good at waiting. The front parlor held them both in its stained glass light, the jewel colors moving slowly across the floor as the November sun shifted, the old furniture solid and patient around them. The tea service between them was still warm. This room had held a great deal of Thornwood family truth over the years. It was accustomed to it. Olivia asked after a moment, Has Mr. Festerman recovered? Maura said, Yes, he's back. Clara gave him 4 biscuits. He seems content. Oh, good. Maura, the letter Malcolm has. Yes? It isn't from me. Maura, the pause of a woman deciding how surprised to appear. No? Olivia, looking at her. You knew. I had information. A very Olivia pause, long, precise, not angry. I'm not going to ask you what information. I'm going to ask you something else. All right. Vic Calloway, the consulting agent. How much do you know about him? Maura was quiet for a moment, with the specific quality of quiet that means, I know a great deal. I am just deciding how much of it is mine to give. Maura. I know he's competent. I know he's honest in the ways that matter. I know he's been carrying something difficult and doing it well. And I also know he sees you clearly. Olivia said quietly. Yes, he does. Longer pause. There was a moment on the South Trail, a small moment, and I've been looking at it from several angles for 2 weeks, and I can't make it into something it isn't. What is it? Olivia said the most honest thing she has said out loud in 4 months. I don't know. But it's the first time in a long time that I've wanted to talk about my brother and all that happened rather than just put it away. And it felt like talking to a sister, family, maybe because of the geology. And then we spent some time together yesterday, and the vibe was very different. Wise, wood-grained, with a stronger grip. Like holding on to something that would not let me fall into the abyss. Maura said nothing. This was the correct response, and she knew it. She let the parlor hold what Olivia had said, which was not a small thing. It was, in fact, the specific thing that Orion Thornwood had always said about his sister, that when she finally let herself want something again, she would say it clearly and without theater, and it would land like a fact rather than a feeling. He had been right. He was, usually, right about Olivia. Maura said after a long, warm silence, "Well, there's something you should probably know about Vic Calloway." Olivia, looking up, asked, "What?" Well, she stood up, smoothing her jacket, picking up her clipboard, the precise movements of a woman. It was decided that the timing is right. Not today, but soon, before the fundraiser." Maura. "Well, okay, but some things have to arrive in the right order, Olivia. And with permissions. You taught me that. The Thursday fundraiser is 2 weeks away. I have to honor the commitments." She left. Olivia sat with her tea and the stained glass and what she had said, which was already changing the shape of now that it was out of the room, and becoming something she could move around, examine from different angles, take seriously. The front parlor absorbed it all, as it always had, patient and warm, and deeply accustomed to the Thornwood family's way of arriving at things slowly and meaning them completely. She missed her brother, but the ache was not so sharp. It had helped to talk. The pain in her chest reached out and gripped a strong, sanded cedar railing for stairs that had suddenly appeared in her heart. She felt a new strength, slowly, inexorably, pulling her up. They had agreed to meet at the gathering place because it was neutral and because both of them independently had needed to be near moving water while thinking. Viv got there first and sat on a bench facing the river and tried to organize what she was going to say, which she had not managed by the time Seb arrived and sat beside her with a coffee and the specific companionable silence of a person who shares your face and knows when to let things be quiet. They sat like that for 2 full minutes. The river moved. The park was doing its late November thing, almost empty, the trees bare, the paths clear and cold and lit by the low white afternoon sun. A jogger passed. Somewhere south, the dam held the Arkansas River with temporary patience. Seb said eventually, "You're in trouble." Viv. I'm aware. Not the warrant kind. I know what kind. She's extraordinary, Viv. A pause, complicated, coming from Seb's direction. I know. And Seb said, I'm not taking something from you. I want to be clear about that. The way you talked to her on the trail really helped her. And that was you. That was real. I just happened to be standing in it. Viv responded quietly. I know that, too. She really loved her brother, but she was afraid to talk about it. He was a geologist, too. Seb responded, what I felt, walking with her for 3 hours, that's different. That's mine. Those are separate things. Viv asked, are they? Seb said honestly, I think so. I'm pretty sure. Finally opening up about her brother. It was like grief counseling in its way. I've been thinking about it since Wednesday. Viv said after a long pause, she's going to find out about both of us. Seb said, yes. Viv, there's a fundraiser in 2 weeks at Liberty Towers. Olivia's penthouse. Maura invited both of us separately. I think she knows. Seb said, Maura definitely knows. Well, she's going to engineer it so that it all comes out there. And it's the day my contract ends, Seb responded, with the calm of someone who has thought about this. Good. Better there than anywhere else. Better all at once. You're very relaxed about all of this, Seb looked. Well, one of us has to be, and you're currently using up all the tension in the county. She almost laughed. That was Seb. She was right. So tense. She wanted nothing more than to shift and to run up and down the river, up Turkey Mountain and back, river trail, run with Seb, get out all that tension, have a few laughs along the way. After a moment, Viv said, Orsino's going to be there at the Tuesday walk, without a letter, just himself. Yeah? With Olivia? Viv said, I don't think he knows what he wants, and I think the letters have been hurtful, because what seemed like a novel way to use geological terms to express feelings was actually pretty tone-deaf. I'm ashamed I got sucked into it. It seemed, well, funny until it wasn't. Seb said, I can see that. Viv said, the most honest she has been about this to anyone. And I'm not certain that makes it any easier. Oh, no, I wouldn't think so. You're going to have to figure out exactly what's going on at heart level, based on the few scraps of truth that present themselves at surface level. Sometimes it's hard to hear what's actually being said, though. And, well, so much for this. Let's shift. Let's run. Race you up Turkey Mountain. Viv shouted back. Okay, you're on. I'll win. Yeah, that's why I suggested it. You need it. You need to win. Viv and Seb shifted into their wolves. Surprisingly, even though they were twins and looked almost identical in their human forms, as wolves, they were quite different in appearance. Viv was lean and quick. Viv was dark gray with black markings. Seb was a showy blend of gray, brown, black, and beige, standing a half-foot taller than Viv. Viv ran with quick agility, leaping over rocks and branches with pure joy. Seb was strong and powerful, especially in his core, which made him enjoy the water. They ran, frisking and playing, and sometimes pushing themselves into sprints, releasing all the tension from the last few weeks, preparing their lungs and hearts for the future. The ATF investigation had, over the preceding week, developed a significant new thread. The illegal mineral extraction network they'd been mapping had a node in Midtown Tulsa that Viv had identified through the subsurface anomaly in the seismic data, and that node, with what felt to Viv like a very specific Oklahoma sense of irony, was operating out of a legitimate-looking property on a residential street that happened to have a genuine Bruce Goff house. Not Orsino's Goff house, a different one. A Goff house that had been purchased 18 months earlier through a shell company, renovated minimally, but with evident geological knowledge, and could cover excellent kind of, which the basement had been expanded, which a Goff house could accommodate structurally in ways a conventional house could not, and provided excellent cover for the kind of subsurface access that showed up as an anomaly at 4,200 feet, which was now, on paper, the private residence of a man named Aldous Fitch, who had no verifiable prior employment history and a mineral leasing portfolio that Viv had described to Orsino as aggressively implausible. The plan was surveillance. 3 nights, starting Thursday. A vehicle positioned in the alley behind the target property. Orsino, Vic, and 2 agents. Clean, controlled, professional. Viv had said, "Does Toby know where this house is?" Orsino had said, "Why would Toby?" Viv had said, "Toby knows every street in Midtown Tulsa. He has walked most of them at various hours in various states of attentiveness. If he hears we're doing something interesting in an alley, he will appear. I'm saying this now so we can plan for it." Orsino had written Toby contingency in his case notes. He had not written what the contingency was because there wasn't one. Some things you could not plan for. Toby was a force of nature with a beanie and good intentions and the operational security of a jazz improvisation, and the best you could do was to build him into the margin and hope the margin held. Viv looked down at the case notes, seeing Toby contingency. "You wrote it down." Well, yes, documentation is how we manage ambiguous variables." "But Toby's not a variable. Toby is a condition." Orsino paused. "Well, I'll bring a second towel." Viv was not there on Tuesday evening. She had intended to be nearby, on a bench, at a reasonable distance, available if needed, not hovering. She had gotten as far as the gathering place parking lot before she understood, with the geologist's bone-deep recognition of a formation she had been avoiding, that she did not want to watch this. Not because she wished it ill, precisely because she didn't. She drove to the Hideaway instead, ordered the turkey bacon club on a wheat bun hoagie, because Toby was not in his booth. Toby was at the gathering place, because, of course he was, because Toby went there when things were happening, and she ate it alone at the counter in the bar area, and looked at the monitors playing sports, and at the mosaics, which were doing their fractured light thing across the walls in the warm amber of the restaurant evening, and thought about how you could follow a formation to its conclusion, even when the conclusion takes you somewhere you did not map. Her phone buzzed at 8:47. A text from Seb. He showed up. No letter. She looked at him differently. Just FYI. S. She set the phone down, face down, on the counter, The mosaics caught the light. A server in a tie-dyed shirt asked if she wanted anything else. Okay. I'll have another club soda, please. End of chapter 8. Thank you.